Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to Squadron Supreme! After the horribly depressing last issue, it's time for the entire story to go downhill quick. Not in terms of quality, because all 12 issues are incredible. I am talking about the morality and the lives of all of the characters going downhill quick. Because this is where it all starts to kick in. So leave a like for superhero deconstructions. And let me know what your favorite issue of the Squadron Supreme that I've covered thus far is. And if you're unfamiliar with this story, let me know where you think it's gonna go in the comments below. Of course, before I get started, thank you for coming by and seeing me at Tucson Comic-Con. I really enjoyed the folks that stopped by and said hi, so thank you very much for that. That was a joy to see. Of course, I will also be attending YumaCon in Yuma, Arizona, sometime in October. Can't remember the exact dates. I think it's early October. I will be in YumaCon. It's a 2-day show, Saturday and Sunday, so check me out there. I'll have all the same stuff available for purchase, and you can come see me in person and tap me on the shoulder and tell me how much you hate my opinions about Batman Hush. And my comic series, The Custodians Agents of Cross, is now available on Etsy. BlakeTWild.etsy.com. Issues 1 and 2 are available on there right now, and every purchase from my Etsy shop comes with a free head sketch of any character of your choosing. So if you buy both issues of The Custodians, you're getting 2 head sketches of any character that you'd like. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Scheel. This is Squadron Supreme 5 Turnabout. Previously on Squadron Supreme, we vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope. As a gesture of the openness and sincerity by which we take this pledge to you, we would like to shed our masks. Later that night, at the Squadron's headquarters, Hyperion and the others finish their daily check-in when Tom Thumb arrives with a little robot to display to them the prototype of his newest invention for the Utopia project. Tom explains that the device is used by placing the helmet over the wearer's head like they're at a hair salon, and then modifies his or her cells to replace any negative tendencies with positive ones. I wanted to talk something over with you. My little brush with the Reaper today really got me thinking, and I figured I'd stop stalling and ask Lady Locke to marry me.
I can't see that you're really the right man for me. Someone I can actually spend the rest of my life with. I'm just so sorry we never talked about this before now, but you never wanted to talk about it. You just wanted...
Damn it! What you're saying is, you don't even want things to be like they were before, is that right? Here's something to help you sleep. When you awaken, you will love Wyatt MacDonald, the Golden Archer, with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your soul. And you won't ever be interested in anyone else again. The book begins in media res, as the Golden Archer wakes up to find himself strung up in the lair of the Institute of Evil. Dr. Decibel, Ape X, Foxfire, Lamprey, Quagmire, and the Shape. Flashback time. After Golden Archer did, you know, the horrible drugging and then subsequent kidnapping and brainwashing of his girlfriend to love only him, he needed a little breathing room because the old machine worked a little too well. Oh, old ball and chain, am I right, fellas? That's literally what it is. She became so obsessed with Golden Archer that every waking moment she wanted to be with him. And he began to worry that at a certain point the rest of the squadron were becoming suspicious. And also, oh my god, women! He went out on his own for a little walk in the woods, and that is when the Institute of Evil caught him. Meanwhile, at a prison in upstate Vesperia, Hyperion and Arcana continue work on the Utopia Project. They've brought forth one of Tom Thumb's behavioral modification machines, aka the B-Mod, to work on a prisoner who is elected to undergo voluntary treatment for immediate parole. The prisoner, Calvin, asks what'll happen once he gets out, because, you know, he's still gonna have a record, and Hyperion assures him that the Squadron has begun a job and relocation service for ex-convicts who partake in the program. Then Arcana readies and operates the machine and rewrites Calvin Maroney's mind so that he now feels a deep regard for all living creatures and is incapable of doing anything that might inflict injury or death. So on and so forth. Several minutes later, Calvin comes to and feels better than he ever has. He says that his mind feels like it's finally been freed of a terrible, heavy burden, and he thanks the heroes and they wish him luck. The warden then tells him that they still have 67 prisoners left to be-modify, but the two don't have the time for today, so they agree to return tomorrow. Arcana packs up as Hyperion informs the warden that he'll bring a list of job opportunities tomorrow because, you know, once the Utopia Project is in full effect, prisons are going to be obsolete, and these guys are going to be out of the job. Meanwhile, in the suburbs outside of Mechanopolis, Stanley Stewart, aka the Wizard, bids his wife and child goodbye and heads off at supersonic speeds. He arrives right as the team are discussing the whereabouts of Golden Archer. Nothing has come up yet, and Hyperion instructs Dr. Spectrum and Lady Lark to continue their search first thing tomorrow morning. Tom Thumb then goes on to explain that he'll have 2 more B-Mod machines ready and operational by the end of the week, but he could really use some assistance, and Hyperion asks if anyone has any suggestions for their current manpower shortage. Cut to a rundown apartment building, aka the current base of the Institute of Evil. Apex and Dr. Decibel conclude their overview of all of the information they've obtained via interrogation of Golden Archer, and then she assigns each of them to abduct a squadron member's relatives. Lamprey is sent after Arcana's husband and kids, Foxfire is to kidnap Power Princess's elderly husband, Quagmire's targets are the Wizard's family, and Shape and Dr. Decibel are sent to abduct Blue Eagle's mother in Fredonia. The next day, Tom Thumb sits alone in his lab talking to his artificial intelligence system, Ada, and she plays him some orchestral classical music as he works, and a little bit later, he begins hacking and coughing horribly. Ada asks if he's okay, and he tells her not to worry. Then the intruder alarm sounds, and Ada reveals that something is jamming her audio-visual circuits. Tom panics and collects his force field belt and a neuron scrambler gun and leaves the lab to investigate the sudden sounds of invasion outside of the base. He finds the Institute of Evil in the meeting room, trashing the place. Tom opens fire but is struck by Dr. Decibel. Lamprey soars at Tom, places his hand against the force field, and absorbs the energy into himself. Tom attempts to flee, but Quagmire exudes his dark force tar to subdue him. Quagmire orders Tom to tell him where the mind control devices are as Ada watches from her security systems, and then she alerts the squadron, who are all in the middle of various tasks around the country. The Institute find the B-Mod machine as Decibel orders everyone except for Quagmire to get into their battle stations just in case the squadron are on their way back. Then Quagmire gags Tom and places him inside the B-Mod machine. 45 minutes later, the first wave of the squadron members arrive. The squadron and the Institute engage in battle throughout the entrance of the base and into the meeting room, and that is until Tom and Foxfire arrive and reveal that all of their loved ones are being held hostage. The squadron stand down under the threat of retribution should they continue, and soon after, Power Princess and the amphibian arrive, and it's the same situation. Who the fuck did they kidnap to get Amphibian to stand down, by the way? A goldfish? Maybe he just gave up because he just doesn't feel like dealing with this shit anymore. He's gonna leave sometime soon. I just can't remember which issue it is that he takes off. Elsewhere, Whizzer and Hyperion arrive through the rear of the base. Unfortunately, Hyperion is immediately drained of his powers by Lamprey. Whizzer begins to act when Spectrum tells him that they have his wife and daughter. He speeds away, racing back to his suburban home to ensure that it's not a trick by the Institute, but he stops at a payphone, places a call to the operator, and enters the number, and waits. And waits. And waits. And there's no answer. Then at the speed of sound, he races to the nearest police station, orders the on-duty officer to take him to their impounded weapons, and Whizzer sorts through it and retrieves an automatic submachine gun. Then he speeds back to the base of the Squadron Supreme, enters via the amphibian's secret waterway tunnel, and finds the Institute, and opens fire! Unfortunately, the Squadron stop the hail of bullets, and Whizzer realizes what's happened just seconds before Lady Lark uses her sonic voice upon him. Hours later, the Squadron and the Institute arrive at one of the Institute of Evil's bases, where they find the kidnapped families and Golden Archer. Ape X commends her cohorts on a job well done, as Shape cheers and Lamprey giggles with ultimate energy high that he is still riding. Hyperion steps forward to introduce himself to Ape X, and then he orders an attack. The Squadron break out into a flurry of fists and battle, and the Institute of Evil is quickly undone, and the hostages are freed. You see, Tom installed a failsafe into the B-mod machines, just in the event that someone tried to use the machines on one of the Squadron members. It is programmed to recognize all of their brain patterns and automatically reject any alterations that are attempted. The thing is, he doesn't reveal to Hyperion that he only did that after he realized what Golden Archer had done. What the fuck, Tom? What the hell? Maybe give him the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he knows that it's been used on someone. He probably has a log or something in the system, and he knows that it was used at some point. Maybe he doesn't know it was used by Golden Archer, but I'm sure he's smart enough to have realized it at a certain point, or he's just that naive. Still fucked up. Should probably let somebody know that, Tom. Anyway, Hyperion congratulates Spectrum on handling himself courageously after his months of inactivity after Nuke's death, and Whizzer apologizes for his actions. He tells Hyperion that he is absolutely willing to resign after his rash judgment, but Hyperion says that they're all entitled to an error in judgment or two. And then he gives Whizzer a big smile. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What Is. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. This was a quick one. It's a very fast, sort of classic story. As always, let me know what you thought in the comments below, where you think, again, this series is going, if you're unfamiliar with it, or what you think of the series, revisiting it through my videos. This one's very fucked up. Especially with what they're gonna do to the Institute of Evil. It brings into question free will and this type of punitive measure of mind control. Is it really morally acceptable to change people like this, even if they volunteer for it? Where is the line, and what does it take to be crossed? I think we found one of those lines in the last issue. Nighthawk brings up this issue very well. I think it's near the end somewhere. I can't remember where exactly. Which is, what is going to happen if or when the Squadron is gone? Will they ever be gone? Or, like, allowed to retire, even? Because don't forget, these, for the most part, are just regular people. Hyperion was a cartoonist. Power Princess is probably the person who has the most influence because she was like an ambassador of a lost race. Spectrum's just a shitty astronaut. Nuke was like a power plant employee, but he's dead. He doesn't matter. Tom Thumb is a genius inventor, but he's awfully naive and not very street smart. Golden Archer, I don't know what the fuck he does. Lady Lark is a pop singer, and now they're ruling the country. What happens if something happens to them? Sure, they're good-hearted people, for the most part, Golden Archer's iffy, that are now in charge of this utopian leadership. But what about when someone less altruistic gets their hands on a B-mod machine? Or, let alone, the entire country? Where's that line at? And what really goes into the prisoner program? Obviously, they're freed after they get B-modded, but, like, are they still in a record somewhere? Maybe the Squadron vouch for them, I guess? Or is it like witness protection? Do they just become entirely new people, both in the most literal sense possible and also physically, I guess? Like, do they change their names and, like, social security while also changing their fucking brains? It's never really gone into. I do love the Institute of Evil. I'm sorry. The Institute of Evil! They're such an odd, kooky group of villains. Really just make no sense in terms of, like... Well, I guess they do. They're all very powerful in their own right. It's just their general designs don't look like they match the Squadrons. They're just a great group. They really do grow as characters of their own, almost as much as the Squadron. And their impact on the story is monumental going forward because they do appear in just about every issue after this. They're as much of a part of the Squadron Supreme series as the actual Squadron are from this point on. And this is such a great subversion by Mark Gruenwald of this comic, because this is such a classic Justice League story. Oh no! The Justice League's villains have brainwashed them to be evil! That is one of the most classic tropes you can get for a comic book. And here, Mark Gruenwald, as he does throughout the entire series, completely changes everything that you expect. This feels like the beginning of the end of the Squadron, which, I mean, it is. But if you're aware enough to notice on the front cover that it features a number 5 out of 12 in the series, then you'll know that there's still time for, like, you know, a lot of stuff to happen. But this comic was released widespread in the 80s. Any child could have easily picked up this book that looks like it's from the Justice League, but it's from Marvel, and just, like, assume, oh my gosh, the Squadron Supreme is gonna lose at the end of this. Because don't forget, each issue takes place, like, it's more or less, it was coming out in real time. Something that had never pretty much been done before. Any child reading this could have been like, oh my god, the Squadron Supreme is gonna lose! They turned evil! And the ending is so classically DC Comics. It ends with a little wink and a smile final panel as Superman stands above the defeated villains. How many Silver Age comics end like that? From either the Justice League, Batman, Superman, anything. And the villains, speaking of which, who in a normal comic like this would show up in another, like, 10 to 15 issues, perfectly normal. Back to the same old evil doings that they were. Maybe there was a brief mention about how they escaped prison after they were defeated in this issue. Not this time. Not on Mark Gruenwald's watch. This time, they're going to be back next issue. And they will be irrevocably changed. And something I really noticed on this reread is how much an aspect of this comes down the line later in Marvel Comics history, because this really is the prototype of the Marvel Civil War event that'll come 20 years later. It's essentially the same sort of ideas that are had there were in this. We'll see it a lot more as the series progresses, especially nearing the end. They really do mirror each other quite well, if I remember correctly. But something that I didn't notice until right now is how it deals with revealing secret identities. That is a huge thing in Civil War, the event. Is Spider-Man reveals his secret identity, and he has to deal with the fact that the villains are now coming after his family members. Boom! Here we have it right here. Mark Gruenwald was a genius. Thank you. That's how I end it. As always, check me out on Instagram at NotBlakeWild. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey's videos, and my Etsy shop, BlakeTWild.etsy.com. And if you're in Yuma, Arizona, Southern California, stop on by whatever dates it is in October and come say hi. And I will see you next time. Bye!